Alright, well, welcome back. So, let's see, since last time, I first of all went and at least started a cosmetic pass over this exotics factory. It's definitely not done, especially over there. You can see a lot of floating roof tiles. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with that area. But overall, I think that this is looking a lot better. I kind of wanted to have something looking, at least decent, at least mostly put together when I turned everything on for the first time. Because that is the plan for right now, is to go ahead and try initial startup of the factory. Now, I think the power situation is going to be pretty tight for that. So, taking a look, power grid B here in this case is the main power network. And if you look at our max consumption versus our production, that gap is only around 1,000 megawatts, which is not all that much to work with, at least not for a full factory. And Power Grid A is the exotics factory, and you can see that our projected max consumption is, 1,169 megawatts, which is definitely over. Now, we're not quite actually hitting our max consumption for the main network. You can see that we seem to be topping out just a little over 2,000 megawatts. So, in theory, we might be able to turn this on without issue, just because we're not actually running at absolute full capacity all the time. But it's definitely gonna be real close. I'm also a little worried that, as has happened previously, when I turn this on, that this max consumption number will update to reflect overclocking and might jump up higher than this estimate. So we'll see if that happens. Now, if the worst does come to pass and we go over, I'm hoping that the way I have these priority groups set up will help. Gosh, that's funny how this just jitters up there constantly. Anyhow, so I did end up changing out the coal plant power switch with a priority power switch, and I've put that in priority group 1, which I'm hoping is the last one to turn off. I'm gonna feel real silly if it's the opposite. I could see it either way. In my mind, though, if something is priority 1, it's the most important, so it's the last one to be turned off if everything is crashing. But I could certainly see it the other way, where it goes through in order and turns off 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. But we'll see. I've got the exotics factory all the way down here on 6. I don't really have a reason for why I went from 1 to 5 and then 6, but that's how I have it set up. So, the point being that if we do have a crash, hopefully it doesn't, at the very least, it doesn't cause the internal network of the coal plant to crash. Even if I have this order wrong, the coal plant's external connection will get cut before we have a total shutdown of like the water extractors and the miners over at the coal plant. And ideally, if I have the order right, the exotics factory will be the first thing to turn off if it is pulling too much power. So, I guess there's nothing really to do but pull the lever and see how it goes. Okay, no immediate crash. Max consumption has gone all the way up to 3375, which is a fair bit over our production, so I am a little nervous about this. But let's go and see what is running. Oh, so first of all, we've got heavy modular frames and concrete that's flowing in from these two truck stations over here where I'm importing them. Now, ultimately, we shouldn't be relying on those heavily, but for now, they're going to be flowing a lot of resources in. Now, you can see that it's not a full belt, despite the fact that we're coming out of a truck station, which definitely has enough resources to supply that. And that's because I had this idea of rate limiting our imports by piping the output from the truck station into a splitter and then piping some of that directly back into the truck station. So the point is that in this case, I believe that by having a Mark I here, which caps out at 60 per minute, I believe I've rate limited this belt to 30 per minute. It should be going out there, because the other 30 per minute is going directly back into the truck station. And we've got a delivery truck that's trying to figure its way out of here. I don't know why they have so much issue with this turn, but they figure it out eventually. Yeah, there we go. Anyhow, the modular frames is a very similar idea, just with a lot more, a few more splitters. So I think this should be coming in at 60, and then I have two inputs off of this that are getting split and then merged up onto this upper line. So that should cut it down by a third. So 20 per minute should be on this bottom line here. And then that one gets split again, so it should cut this belt down to 10 per minute. And then, of course, all the remaining 50 per minute, is going back into the truck station. Now, in reality, I need a fair bit, actually, less than 10 per minute coming in, getting imported. But I've got another setup further down, which I hope will help with that. Okay, so yeah, we're getting the first steel beams and steel pipe, as well as our local production of concrete, which has started up. So that's looking good. I do see some stop-starting over here. I hope that's something that trends towards running at 100% efficiency. As I mentioned previously, at least I believe, this setup is a little weird, where I'm having this node output and then merge with the remainder from nodes that I'm bringing in on that bridge way over there. So we'll see how it works. I could have made a mistake here that causes it not to run at complete efficiency. And then meanwhile, our steel beams and pipes are being produced up here. Certainly seeing some yellow lights in there. That's something I'll have to keep an eye on. Trees that aren't running fully yet. I think that's the manifold design. Certainly hope that's the manifold design. Yeah, the initial iron is being produced by this set down here, and then directed upward. again, I assume this manifold is still filling. Hopefully filling. Yes, very, very slowly. Again, hopefully I've got all these ratios correct. It's always possible that there's something that I didn't overclock properly or some such. At least according to my diagram, 2 normal iron nodes here at 120 per minute each, so no overclock. Should be what's sitting here. So, hopefully I did my math correctly. Is at least in line with my diagram. And these are overclocked, and these are running down to a smelting setup underneath this bridge, and then down here. Oh wow, this has a red light. Oh, you just don't have a recipe selected. Okay. Well, at least that's going now. And then the iron ingots are going up here. This little chute on the side. I really like this little design with the conveyor nested in amongst these pillars. I'll have to think about doing that again in the future. And this, whoop, that's not right. Okay. This should be going in here into our blueprint. And certainly have a yellow light over here. Well, obviously we were deficient in some iron, so I hope that's trending towards the correct amount. And those should be producing modular frames, which, yes, are going up here. And this is the setup I was talking about to try to further reduce our imported modular frames. So, at least for now, that won't be working because this belt is backed up. So, functionally, it is fully capable of outputting 60 per minute instead of the 10 per minute that my input is limited to. But I'm hoping that everything will balance out eventually. So the idea here is that the local production of modular frames goes into a whole bank of splitters. If I can get them selected. They're in there. And then gets redirected into a whole suite of mergers. And the idea behind it is to try to essentially represent this local production to this top belt, which is our ultimate output, to sort of represent that input multiple times over. So essentially multiplying how many times this belt has an opportunity to pull from the local input as opposed to our imported resource. So the local one is getting presented 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, whereas the import is just getting presented once, right here at the start. And at least my hope is that that will result in 5 times as many modular frames being pulled from this local production as from our import. And at least once everything balances out, both of these belts should be running at 10 per minute. So by pulling 5 times as much from this one, my hope is that only 1/5 of this belt will be consumed, which should be 2 per minute. So the total that we need is 12 per minute modular frames. Anyhow, it has yet to be seen if this idea will work. This is a like slightly modified version of an idea that I saw at some point. I think I found a video for it on basically trying to produce a priority merger, which is not something that is present in the game. I want to say that the design that I saw was just basically to create a whole bank of splitters and mergers, like so many that it doesn't really matter, exactly what the rates are of inputs. But if I at least understand the idea correctly, then this is just a more compact version of that to just be exactly what I need to get the right ratio on my ultimate output. But we'll see. We'll see if that ends up panning out. But as you can see, this belt is moving periodically, and we're getting a lot more movement on this belt than we are on this belt. So, at least in principle, the idea is working. We'll see if the ratios are exactly correct. In the meantime, here is our heavy modular frame blueprint, which I see a lot of yellow lights inside of. So I'm sure that our input rates... our input rates are looking pretty good, to be honest. So I'm worried now that something is wrong. But I suppose a lot of this depends on manifold style designs as well, so it probably requires a lot of backing up in order to actually run efficiently. You can at least see that these are starting to produce heavy modular frames, if nothing else. And heck, if this thing is designed inefficiently, maybe that just means our power draw will be lower. Alright, so yeah, this is where steel pipes are coming from. This whole section here is doing nothing but producing steel pipes. Lots of machines not working yet. Again, manifolds, hopefully. And the actual steel ingots for this are coming around from under here, and then from this smelter setup over here. I've got to say, I think that this building design is the one that I'm most proud of in this factory, where the raw resources come in here to a smelter setup, they get pumped down underneath and around this loop up to be turned into steel pipe. And I like this angled window here. I even put like vents up top where obviously this is completely unnecessary, but the fact that these smelters are outputting, tons of smoke in here made me want to put some vents up top. Even though they serve no practical purpose, it at least feels like they should be there. And then this upper part, of course, is where all the resources end up from that. Yeah, I'm not saying it's the best thing ever, and it's not even finished with gaps like this, but I at least really like the overall design of this section here. And then we just have other smelters up here whose smoke is clipping right through the roof that I put on them, so I'll have to think about that. Maybe I can switch the angle of this slope and not make that at least nearly so obvious. Maybe I'll get around to that. And then, of course, raw resources coming in here. I do see these belts starting a fair bit. I hope our miners are at least running at 100%. That looks correct. They might be trending upward, though. 120 per minute. That should be a Mark II belt, which is what I've got. Am I being bottlenecked by this? Oh, I might be, actually. You're bottlenecked on output. Well, I'll have to do some looking at this. This is not right. We definitely should not be bottlenecked on output of iron ingots there. That's probably causing all kinds of inefficiencies down the line. Wonder if I just didn't calculate the throughput here correctly. Oh, you aren't running. You should be set to solid steel ingot. Okay, that very well could be at least a part of the problem. And what are you? You're not getting any iron at all. Oh my god. I just don't have any belts here. Okay. So, certainly a few problems going on. Oh. Why aren't you... Is this going to be a case where I was looking at the wrong thing? There we go. Okay. Okay, so a variety of flow issues, but hopefully that starts to get things behaving at least more correctly. Oh, you aren't doing anything over here. What are we missing? It looks like we're... Oh no. Oh no. I'm outputting ore directly into constructors. Oh no. Okay, well that's transparently just wrong. I definitely have a tendency to do this from time to time. I just get it into my head like, okay, I need ore to go to wire, and I forget that it has to be smelted. So, okay, that's not working. So, as a result, we will not be getting any, what are they called? SAM fluctuators, I think. Yeah, that should have been getting produced here. That's something I'll fix here in a bit. I don't think I'll do that at this exact moment. Just need to find a place to jam in some smelters over there. Okay. But hopefully we at least have all of our other resources getting produced. I haven't totally set this up yet, but the idea is that all of our resources will get directed to this ramp where they'll go into a set of dimensional depots, which I plan to stash away in here. I hadn't wanted to bother building this yet because I don't actually have the Mercer spheres to place more, and I do have some dimensional depots way out there hooked up to storage containers of like steel beams, steel pipes, that sort of thing that I can remove and relocate over here. I just hadn't wanted to until I was confident that those resources were actually going to get produced over at the new factory. So yeah, besides SAM fluctuators, which should be coming in there, it looks like I do at least have resources on all of these other belts. Steel pipe, steel beams, encased industrial beams, and heavy modular frames coming in there. So, yeah, once I get those created, then my design should route excess off over this way to these export truck stations, which you can see is already happening with a bunch of resources. So at least that's working in principle. To be frank, though, I'm not too worried about tracking down the inefficiencies in this factory until we have a power grid that can support it at maximum efficiency. So, with that in mind, I'm beginning to think about some new power production. coal has been serving us real well up to this point, but we're running into the limits of our current coal plant. And I want to start looking into fuel generators instead, because that's a new form of power production, which we haven't leveraged at all thus far. And so I've started looking into this area for production of turbo fuel. I guess let me try to run out to our quartz factory real quick. Get headed out to our geothermal power production out here, because this gives us a good overview of where I'm hoping to build our next power plant. So the reason why I'm looking here is, first of all, because of these sulfur nodes. So if we take a look down here, I think we've got the whole gambit. I think we've got an impure, a normal, and a pure. Yeah. And then I want to say that we have a very similar set of coal somewhere out here, not too far. There they are. So yeah, there's 3 nodes out there, and I want to say that they are the same situation. 1 impure, 1 normal, 1 pure. Oh, wow, that's a purple slug just... Oh no, there we go. Okay, so these 3. Normal. Normal. Oh, okay. Well, so I was wrong. But so long as this is at least another normal. Yes. I think that equates to the same resource production, because, let's see. 3 normals with a Mark II miner would be 120 times 3, 360 with no overclock. And then the sulfur would be 60 plus 120 plus 40? Oh. Well, shoot. So not quite right. And was it only these 3 nodes? Oh, there's a 4th. Okay. Yeah, I really thought that I had at least checked this from the map. I don't think I came over here physically. Just taking a peek at that and then running away again. But so let's see. The total was 420, and then yeah, 4 normals should more than cover that, right? Because it's 420 versus 120 times 4, 480. So if we look at compacted coal, that requires equal parts coal and sulfur. So I was really hoping to get at least as much coal as I would need, or, as I had sulfur, to maximize our compacted coal that we could pull out of this region. And then compacted coal, which I was already on, is used to make turbo fuel. So yeah, I would need fuel and compacted coal to make turbo fuel, and then we can burn turbo fuel in a fuel-powered generator. And I believe we do have a fair bit of oil out in this region. Maybe I'll just look on the map this time to see what that's looking like. Pure, normal, normal, impure, and then further out we've got a pure and another pure. So yeah, I haven't fully finished crunching all the numbers, but the point is, between oil and compacted coal made of coal and sulfur, I think this is a good candidate for our next power plant. Probably making compacted coal like up in this area here, and then fuel down in this area, and then having a bank of fuel generators out here somewhere. Something like that is the idea. At the very least, we definitely need to improve our power situation before we can build any additional factories, and heck, maybe even before I solve those throughput issues in the now functional exotics factory. So that's what I'm thinking of tackling next. And I will also, probably start investigating any throughput. Oh, that's a stinger that I hear. Yep. I'll just leave you guys behind. Yeah, I think I will probably investigate throughput issues in the exotics factory. Definitely fix that copper wire issue. Make sure that everything, even if I don't have the power to run it at 100% efficiency, which I don't know, I might, just barely. But if I don't, I would still at least like to know why it isn't working how I designed it. So I will check in on all of that, and then check back in with you all later. All right, well, here we are again, out in front of the Essentials factory next to the hub. I still haven't moved that to where I'm planning to get it eventually. So, I believe last time I was talking about setting up some more power generation, because I can find a power pole here to use as an example. Yeah, we are at least theoretically close to the line. The exotics factory has sort of backed up, stopped production for now, so that's why the actual consumption isn't much higher. But in order to get that fully operational, I think I'm going to need a fair bit more power infrastructure, especially if I want to expand at all. But before looking at that, I had been noticing that we have a lot of Fix-It coupons that have backed up here. So I was thinking of going through the Awesome Shop and basically just buying everything that I can. I think there isn't a whole lot left, actually. Got the boombox. I don't know that I've ever gotten that before. And parts. Okay, so I think that's all of the unique unlocks that I can get. Only 14 tickets.
How did this get here? I thought I destroyed all of these.
Interesting. Gonna have to equip this thing. You are... This is pretty great. It's put down. Oh yeah, you can point at the ground and leave it in a spot. Fantastic. Okay. I'll have to think about using that more regularly. Do need my coffee mug back though. Alright, so let's see. I do still have a ton of tickets. And all of the advice that I've had previously, which makes a lot of sense, is not to waste your tickets on parts like this, things that you can just produce yourself and should be producing yourself. But I have so many, and in terms of setting up more power infrastructure, which I really want to do before I start setting up any more automation, I am kind of in desperate need of motors, as we'll see. So I'm considering using at least some of those to unlock motors to get my power generation actually on track where I want it to be. But I can't really make up my mind because, as has happened many times before, I'm sure that I'll unlock new things in that awesome shop. And, suddenly be out of tickets to spend on them. So I'll have to think about that. I guess we'll see how much of a bottleneck motors are going to end up being. I have set up like a little ramshackle automation of some motors just to try to get some being produced in the background, but it's just not keeping up with what I need. So I headed over here because I think last time I had been looking in on these blueprints and had realized that resources weren't flowing cleanly everywhere, and said I was going to investigate. And I believe in both cases, across both blueprints, the issue ended up being that I had accidentally used smart splitters instead of normal splitters in just a few spots inside these blueprints. So you can see here, I have set this smart splitter to any output on all directions, which functionally means it should just be a standard splitter. I just did that instead of bothering to actually replace it directly. I think I did just replace the ones over there, but didn't bother with it here since I could just tweak the settings, I eventually realized. But yeah, by default, when you place a smart splitter, I think they only allow output forward. Yeah, so that was the issue, was that I came up here and resources were only flowing up this lift in this direction, and I was thinking that I'd misattached something somehow, even though I thought I was being careful about that with lifts and belts and such. But no, it was just, at some point, I accidentally had a smart splitter selected instead of a normal splitter while building out the blueprint. So it was a nice, simple fix, and I think that, at least if these had a place to output to, that they would be running just fine now. You can see that I do have SAM fluctuators flowing. I did just awkwardly squeeze in a single smelter over there to actually get ore converted to ingots before going into the wire constructors. So that got that flowing. Got full belts of everything because these truck stations have finally filled up. So as a result, nothing is running currently. Eventually, I'm going to need to, like I did with the Essentials Factory, redirect any overflow to an awesome sink, which I haven't quite decided where I'm going to put it, but that is the goal. I just haven't bothered with that, given how power constrained we are. I didn't want to push the power grid to the point of breaking something that I actually rely on. Though I did redirect at least steel pipe and SAM fluctuators while I was working on it into dimensional uploaders, just so that I wouldn't run out of those resources while building out power infrastructure. Which I think we might as well get out there and take a look at. It's going to be a bit of a trek, though. that's going to be the end of today's episode. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope to see you in the next one.